Now recording. Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the official start to the 2019 semester of Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. So this class, I've been running this class literally for 6 years. I did the initial recordings for the lessons that are on, like the teachable.com website. I did those 6 years ago. So it's kind of amazing to think about that, and have done many subsequent semesters bringing students through the teaching cycle. So this is actually wonderful, and it's hugely gratifying too, because I've seen the changes, the planetary, social, cultural, and individual changes of participants, doing all this. So yeah, some people that took the class 5 years ago, watching their lives and how it's changed and unfolded, and also watching human society as it changes and unfolds. So the basic premise of this class, why I call it Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, is that each one of us has within us the potential to encompass the entire spectrum. Just trying to move up. I was joking before I started here about my lighting situation, because I know it's hugely backlit with the sun back there. But yes, each one of these colors represents a layer of reality. So I already did 2 lessons back in December that are kind of like the intro and lesson 1 to this. I'm doing some recap right now. We're going over what are all of these colors, what do they represent, why the rainbow, why am I obsessed with the rainbow, why do I always paint rainbow stuff? And the answer is, I didn't invent this. This has everything to do with our sun, which is our nearest star, or our nearest point of consciousness that is broadcasting to us from the stellar network, which is like a large galactic scale neurology. And we as beings that emanated from that star, remember, not everything, but almost everything that we have comes from that star, whose name is Sol, right? We're in the solar system. Sol gave us all of our neurological activity, like all of the, electrical impulses, quote unquote, that are flowing through the quote unquote wires of your body. We get all of that from the sun. All of our light energy, information, consciousness energy, we get all of that from the sun. And of course, we get all of our nutrition from the sun via chloroplast here. I don't have my special cannabis drink. I already drank my cannabis today, but fruit juice, there you go. This is a bunch of liquefied sunlight that comes from chloroplast that caught photons. And many of the elements that are in our body did not come from this sun. They came from another star a long, long time ago. So things like calcium in your bones, that came from the, death explosion of a star a long, long time ago. We made of the stars, we're part of the stars, everything that we have is part of them. And the genetic degradation that we experienced about 10 or 20,000 years ago is what turned us askew. Like if you could take a guitar that's in perfect alignment, and you twist the knobs at the top, and then all of a sudden it sounds horrible. That's what happened to the vibrating DNA strings of our body. Let me play something better. We are made of music. So we have tiny vibrating strings inside of our body that are inside of the nuclei of our cells that are DNA. I have a piano over here that is an electric piano. It contains the sounds that would happen in an actual piano, where you have a string that is struck with a hammer or plucked with like a little, placket that makes it vibrate. Okay. So we're made of music, and our music is meant to relate to the great symphony, to the great composer. I was saying in the intro that I call this information that I'm presenting to you the interdimensional language of color, line, shape, form, movement, texture, and tone. Tone being la la la, musical tone. If we were to communicate with super intelligent non-terrestrial beings, we would not use English to talk with them. That's why I joke about the flapping of my moving mouth parts. Oh my God, guys. So laborious to have to do this. Oh my goodness. And just as a brief anecdote, I'm trying to stay like super focused today because I have a lot of information to get through. I used to work as a custom framer, like as part also of like learning about, human culture and everything like that. And I used to try to talk to people telepathically about like, how do you want this framed? And I started to understand like the messages are not getting through. Like when you recognize you're talking to someone, you cannot hear and perceive. So yes, I might be beaming an image of what your framed piece looks like, but you're not getting it. Let me fix my lighting so you can see my face a little bit better. Okay, that is better actually. So this language is what we would use, what we will use, what we are using to communicate with beings that have a different format than this organic biological format. So we right now, everyone who's in my class, my whole audience, You have, trillions of cells. You're a multicellular being. You're organic, meaning that you live as an organism. You eat and consume solidified sunlight and poop it out. Like, this is the level of existence. And not everybody has that level of existence. So there's other forms of consciousness that are coming from a different direction and moving at a vastly different rate. And this is, how do you even have a conversation with beings at that level? So let's say you and I are like the level of a fruit fly. Fruit flies are wonderful. I don't condescend to fruit flies. But they only live for 3 days. Like, if you put some bananas in your trash and you put the cover on, and then you come back 3 days later, you open up the lid, and all of these fruit flies fly out. They have literally been born, developed their entire fruit fly culture. Like, they've had a renaissance, and then you open up the lid and they all fly out. Like, they've had an enormous amount of time in those 3 days. How does a being that lives for such a short time scale interact with, effectively, a being that lives at the time scale of, let's say, a giant redwood tree? Like, they can live for 2,000 years. How can you even have a conversation? By the time I say, hi, good morning, how you doing? By the time you respond to me as a giant redwood tree, I'm dead. It's been 3 days. Like, you guys talk faster. How do we, as beings that have a time scale of, roughly 100 years of, we are embodied in these bodies, how do we have a conversation with a galactic-sized being that might live for billions of years, or whatever? How do we have a conversation with a star? What is the time scale of a star? How can we effectively receive information and do this back and forth at the time scale of a star? It becomes very, very challenging. So this is also how you can understand, first of all, I'm very big on this. Humanity has not been abandoned. As I come here to this culture, into this time and place, and I came in through this genetic portal, and I'll tell you all about this too, I've had to really come to understand how profoundly traumatized this place is. And, everyone here is like, what happened? Where is God? Where are the angels? Why is no one helping us out? What's going on? So basically, the genetic degradation, the guitar strings being made out of tune, made it very difficult to hear the music of the symphony. Very difficult to hear. I see Dominic has a wonderful furry overlord, totally tuning into lasagna. I think that's so wonderful, because all of these organisms are part of it. Our cats, our dogs, our horses, our redwood trees. There's a wonderful conductor that says, tap, tap, tap. Now it is time to be born. Now it is time to say this and do this and move in this direction in the time field. Now it is time to do this. So how do we even listen to this? So all of this is all backstory to be able to understand, why is it important for you to learn this stuff? First of all, you're not just supposed to be a bump on a log, this backseat. You're not supposed to just be like a passenger. You're supposed to actually be an active, involved participant. So many things in this time and place culture, they try to tell you, like, there, dear, you just sit quietly. Let Papa do it. Let me drink this. Anything from politicians, the ruling class running the country. There, dear, you just sit quietly. Let the politicians take care of it. To, if you're in a plane that you're meant to like sit like a child in your high chair with your little snack tray, and the pilot takes you there, the navigator navigates for you, all these things that are meant to be disempowering. The journey that we are taking now, which is a journey of consciousness, and it's a journey across the time field, and this is, a representation of time. All of these patterns, all of these things that I'm talking about, we're talking about time. You don't get to just be a bump on a log. I'm sorry. It's not like that. You can't just be like, I'm just going to like, here. I'm just going to like lean back and relax, and someone else on the tandem bike can do all the pedaling. Like, I ain't going to do the work. You got to do the work. That's the whole point. So it's not like being in a math class in elementary school where the teacher says 3 + 5, everyone, 3 + 5, and the smart kid raises their hand. I know the answer, and all the lazy kids are like, just let the smart kid answer. Just let them say it. I don't even have to use my brain. That's the whole point. So no, this is not that type of a context anymore. If it ever was that type of a context, I'm here to tell you, no, you have to learn to do the math. No, Rory, I don't like math. I'm putting my fingers in my ears. No, don't worry, don't panic. It's cool math. So we do it in a fun way. I like to present this in a very fun way. So everything that you see printed on my clothing here and these paintings, and I'll start to get through some paintings, all of this is based in this language of vibration, and it involves math, but it is not necessarily the math of Arabic numerals, like something that looks like a 1, looks like a 2, looks like a 3. It's the math of color and proportion. And what I was saying about our innate connection to the sun and the stars and that system of consciousness, we're calibrated to be part of the sun. So not all of the light that comes off of every star is equal. We are calibrated to understand that light that comes from our sun, look, it's streaming in my window right over there. We call that white light, even though it is actually slightly yellowish green. And all of the constituent elements of that white light, like the recipe that makes up white light, is what we are made of in terms of the colors of the rainbow. So big emphasis on this point. These colors represent layers of reality, layers of your own being. Like this is red. This is the layer of your physicality. I'm touching my face. I'm touching my red layer. This is orange. That is the layer of your emotions. And when I talk about emotions in this context, I'm talking about guts, your mammalian emotions. I'll stand up so you can see it. Here, this is your guts. It's below your belly button. It's like where your intestines digest your food. It's all the feelings of anger, grief, sorrow, romantic attraction, romantic revulsion, affection, hugging, petting, expressions of mammalian emotions, okay? And when I say hugging and petting, like we are mammals. Part of our healthy, positive emotional expression is grooming each other, grooming ourselves, hugging each other, hugging different things. That's why we have cats and dogs. Dominic has his lovely furry overlord there. My furry overlord will arrive soon. So I was doing so much work. I was like setting things up. I gave her chew toy. She's like going to have a little nap in the back. And then you see she's got a little chair right next to me here. She's going to jump up soon. All of that is healthy and the way it's supposed to be. Because when I start to talk about the orange layer of being, a lot of the time I talk about the distortions that are in this level of being, but I don't want you to think that that's all that is there. So it's just like saying, if you're playing a song, you're like, right note, wrong note. It should be, that's a good note. So we've got in that layer of orange emotions in our own bodies, some emotions that are in tune and some emotions that are not in tune. And then up from there, there is yellow. That's the level of the human daily waking intellect. All of these are energy centers on your body. So when I say the center and I point here, that means that's where the convergence point is. I'll show you on a picture. This is the daily waking consciousness. This is not your dream consciousness. It is not your supra consciousness. So now let's talk about sub and supra. So when you sleep at night, you can go into subconscious, which is like the detritus of the day and just like nonsense and, you know, stuff that's kicking around in there. You can go into supra consciousness. So sub is below, unconscious. Supra is above, super conscious. So this is like saying here, this is your daily waking intellect. I say, my name is Aurora. I live in a house. You know, this is my work that I do every day. That's the me that I am in my daily waking consciousness. But when I go to sleep, I can go into my conscious. I can go into my feelings. I can, go into that realm. Or you can do what would be considered lucid dreaming, which is go into supra consciousness, which is higher than your daily waking intellect. And now we're getting into the idea of your higher faculties. So pictures worth 10,000 of my flapping, moving mouth parts. Let me go to my meticulously organized, everything's over here. Oh, and just because this is a brief aside, what you see, what I'm gesturing with over here on top of my cursor, all of these numbers on the side, these are my current explorations. So this painting that you're looking at here, where I'm also gesturing with the cursor, that's a really, let me make it so you can see my face better. There you go, you can see my face now. This is a really old painting that I did like maybe 15 years ago, where I was just exploring what you could consider like the basic chord. Like, oh, these are the basic notes that are in this musical structure. And then over the years, I've added more and more notes and flourishes and learned how to add more layers of complexity. So what I'm exploring now, all of these numbers that you see on the left represent my current exploration. I'm basically doing like 5 octaves overlapping. So I don't mean to confuse or overwhelm, because this is, the introductory level stuff. I just wanted to give you an idea of how I create this music. It begins with these very basic formations. So it's just like learning a musical instrument, and it's also just like learning language, like the language that we're speaking with our flapping, moving mouth parts. Almost everybody went to school. Almost everybody learned the letters of the alphabet. Individual packets of information that then group together to form words, that then group together to form sentences that have a grammar or a logic that connotes meaning. We're learning symbol structure, okay? So over here, what you've got is the very beginning of learning that let me see if I can get annotation. There we go, annotate, good. The very beginning of, it's like learning the ABCs. So there are basic shapes that are part of understanding this language. So there are basic shapes and there are basic color proportions. So right now we're starting off with the circle and the idea of nested circles. And this place where I'm making a white dot over here, that's a very crucial part of energetic anatomy and anatomy of the time field, because that is a convergence point. It is also the source and the destination of all of this energy. All of the energy basically is emitted from there, comes out, circulates out, and then circulates back to there in various different patterns. So please remember that that's an important part, and I will speak much more about it. It's the singularity, it's the zeroth dimension in the level 2 presentation. And that's why, just to reiterate, everybody who's tuned in on this, everybody's welcome to do both level 1 and level 2, because I never mean to overwhelm, but I think that you can learn a lot. It's a one-room schoolhouse. So what I was just talking about with the layers of reality, we start out and we measure the red circle, and this is going to actually go all the way off the screen over here, because you can see I have like half of a red circle on there, but that's the physical layer of existence. And that in the recipe of light, both our body's light and the light that comes from our sun, our star, the sun, Sol, by far the largest proportion of the energy is physical. There's the most physical energy. And then when we go through the proportions, there is half the amount of emotional energy as there is physical energy. So in any painting, like let's say I make the red circle 12, I'll write it out for you in Arabic numerals so you can see what I'm talking about. Hey, everybody, let's do a little bit of fun math. What's half of 12? Well, Aurora, that's easy. It's 6. So in all of my paintings, if I make the 12-inch circle red, then it means I make the orange circle is going to be 6 inches. And then the yellow circle from out here in over to here, it's always going to be 1/3 of the size of red. So in this case, that means that it's 4. And green is always going to be yellow is always 1/3, green is always 1/4, and that ends up being 3, because, hey man, what's 4 divided by 12, 12 divided by 4? Sorry, let's start that again. Hey man, what's 12 divided by 4? Well, hey guys, that's easy, that's 3. So this nested proportions go all the way down to violet, and so this turquoise over here is going to be 2.4. I can't make a little tiny decimal, 2.4. This dark blue is 2, and then violet is always 1.68. And that's interesting in the way that that relates to the phi proportion, which is 1 to 1.68. So I came upon these proportions because it's a way for me to have the most integers, whole numbers. Look, we got 12, 6, 4, 3, and 2. I only have 2 things that involve fractions or decimals. So that's why I chose that, to calibrate my paintings in that way. You could choose anything. You could choose to make red 1. You could choose to make red 1000. But whatever you choose to make red, violet is always going to be 1/7 the size of red. And what that means, if we keep going through all these layers of being, we got up to conscious daily waking intellect, which is yellow over here, right? Now we're going over to here. Let me clear all this out. And let me clear all drawings, and let me show you this over here. This over here. Now we're going up, and let me get the pencil again. Oh, it's really working. I love it when things work. We made it up to here. This is the level of your daily waking intellect. And for many, many thousands of years, that was considered to be the summation of what it is to be human. Your physical body with some mammalian emotions that make you, rage or hug people. And then a little bit of cerebral cortex on top of that. It's also the way that your biological architecture of your neurology is organized. Pardon me if my words don't always come directly to my mouth. So now let me draw aspects of your brain. We're going to begin with, this is the brain stem, also known as the pons. It's not a penis, it's brain stem. And there it goes, kind of like that. That is considered the reptilian brain. And it's inside of all of us. And it is like the basis of the red chakra. It just makes you be alive. It just makes you breathe. It is staying alive. Staying alive, staying alive. It's just staying alive and seeing if you can eat something or have sex with it. Like, can I eat it? Can it eat me? Can I have sex with it? I'm staying alive. That's that level of being. And on top of there, in your brain, there is a mammalian cortex, where this is where you feel your feelings. So you get to mitigate those reptilian tendencies. It's like, well, it's not just about can I eat it or can I screw it? Now it's also about can I work together with it? Because mammals learned that you can do a lot more fun and cool stuff by working together with other members of your species. Like if there's a rock that's too big for you to lift on your own, get help from some other guy over there. Don't, just die. So this is the idea that reptilians are like, I ain't gonna work together with you. I'm out for number one. And I use my tough guy voice. I ain't looking out for you. I'm looking out for number one. But mammals learn to work together. And then on top of that, I should be doing this in the right colors here. This was red, right? Then up from red is orange, which is mammalian, let's work together stuff. And then on top of orange is yellow. And yellow is represented by the convoluted surface area of your brain known as the cerebral cortex. And that is where most of the mental activity that takes place that science defines as thought happens. But this is the yellow layer using its own thought structure to define thought. So it's really invalid. It's whatever. I can't even think of a good analogy to it. Your mind is defining what mind is, but that's not the full extent of what mind can be. So then let's go into what I begin to call the higher faculties. So now we're going over here. I'm making a big giant dot. This is heart. And heart and unconditional love is a very different emotional state than this mammalian state down here. It is a state of pure acceptance, and it has to do with how fast you move through time. So let's say this is like a beam of light and you are moving through time, kind of like Pac-Man, right? That old video game. I'm chomping on the little dot. I'm Pac-Man. I'm this Pac-Man. I'm moving through time. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Love is a tone. Love is a tone. Love is a tone that we make when we move through time at one moment per moment. So that means that when we are completely focused in terms of consciousness in this moment now, not clinging to the past, not thinking about the bad thing that happened last Thursday or in third grade, and also not striving for the future, not being like, what's going to happen next Thursday? What's going to happen next week? What's going to happen in 10 years? Then you are completely loving when you are in the moment now. And that love, this is not the love of romantic partnership. This is not the love of penis in vagina sex. This is the love of cosmic partnership. It's the love of being a musician who's playing in time with the rest of the band. And you play in time on a cellular level and on a consciousness level. And for many thousands of years, this was represented as the pinnacle of achievement for humanity. Meditate on a mountaintop for blah, blah, many years, you might get to be this loving, like any of your heroes, your spiritual heroes, that guy, that guru guy. You must meditate and you will be just like him. That's just the basis. I call this level is like a fulcrum, and it is like the pivot point or the balance between what could be called lower self and higher self. But again, I say this in this class all the time, is play a low note. Love is a low note. It's not a bad note, it's a low note. It's really nice in some songs. Low does not necessarily mean distorted or less valuable, even though I understand here on this traumatized planet, everybody got crashed down into a lower vibration place, greater density, lower vibration, lower frequency, that now everybody associates that with distortion, but it does not have to be distortion. But usually what happens in music, if you make a recording, like I make the recording, if I slow down the tape, then it starts to distort. It doesn't sound like its true self. So that's really how we can understand this primary emotional energy of the heart, of unconditional love, of us moving seamlessly through time. Street cleaners going by today, sorry. They didn't get the memo that I was doing my webinar. How could they do this? Hold on a moment, I'll drink a little water. The things that distort this experience of being completely loving and completely embedded in the moment are usually thought structures. So it's usually we are not embedded in the present moment now because I'm thinking about the past or anticipating the future. And so usually it is due to problems that are happening at the yellow level. So the green level is supposed to be a clearinghouse where energy impulses that are coming from either direction. So energy impulses come from up here, higher dimensional, less dense realms, and they go into us through the crown chakra, circulate through our various energy centers, and then come into the physical realm. And that can be as a neural impulse in the physical realm, or it can come out as music, or song, or painting, or a gesture, or whatever, or a real baby. And then energy also goes in the complementary directions, get a different color, from the physical world up through all the chakras, emotional, intellect, heart, higher faculties, back up to higher dimensional, less dense realms. It's meant to be a loop. It's meant to be a feedback loop. It's meant to be a conversation between these two aspects of being. So that's why I hesitated to even say higher self versus lower self, because I think that is an outdated presentation or an outdated way of looking at things. The whole thing is you. The whole thing is you. Yourself that is at this end of the piano, and yourself that is over here at this end of the piano. And, oops, sorry. And even this self up here, let me move on my piano keys. Can you even hear that aspect of self? That's like your highest, most divine aspect of self. It's all you. So it's been like a myth to say that humanity has been cut off from all this stuff that's, or that it's someone else, or that it's something else. It's all you, baby. It's all you. So now let's go up from the level of the heart. That's basically, like I call it, a central clearinghouse, a hub through which all of these energy impulses must pass. And when people talk about your heart being either open or closed, it is kind of like a tube or a conduit. I don't have anything here. I wish I had like a little something, like, you know, like a piece of pipe. If that pipe is in perfect alignment, then all of the water or energy can flow through it. But let's say we tilt it a little bit. Then, oh, now there's only a tiny little bit, 3% of that water is flowing through that pipe because it's tilted askew. That is what happens when human beings close down their heart. And mostly what that means is they are receiving insight, energy, insights that they don't know what to deal with on an intellectual level. Here, let's draw it. Well, this is the level of insight where I'm making this blue dot, and energy from insight has to go through the heart in order to reach down here, which is the level of daily waking human intellect, so that you can understand what you're having as in terms of insight. But if you don't want to have that insight, like, I'm thinking something that is socially inappropriate, then sometimes people close down their heart and they make it go askew so that that insight does not reach your mind. So it's like sub or supraconscious information that does not reach your daily intellect. And children are taught to do this all the time. Children usually have very awake, acute, higher faculties, and they can see, like, that guy's a creep, that guy's a pedophile, that guy I don't want to spend any time with. And mothers are always like, oh, hush, be polite. Like, don't say that about that person. Like, so we teach young people, and we teach ourselves, close down those perceptions. Like, I can't perceive that. I'm not allowed to think that. That's so rude. But then you get it confirmed later. And you're like, wow, I kind of knew that about that person. So wait, but I was just jumping to the eye of insight. Let's not jump. Let's understand, first of all, that this level over here, the level of heart, is a spinning field of energy that whirls around and creates a stable foundation upon which all of the other, they're like gyroscopes, whirling fields of energy balance. And the first one is over here. It is throat. It's at the throat chakra. It's right here, light blue or turquoise colored. And that's communication. Anything that you're doing with communication. It can be speaking with your voice. It can be anything that emanates from here with your arms. It can be gesturing. It can be doing sign language. It can be painting. It can be writing. It can be playing a piano. It's everything that we do to communicate. And in terms of energy, this is the place in the energy structure when impulses are coming from a higher dimensional, less dense realm, and it comes in through your crown, reaches your eye of insight, and then comes here to get words. Because if it's just an unclothed, insightful idea package, there's no way for you to communicate it to others. So I experienced this all the time when I first came here, and I was not articulate with words as I am now. Like, I've had to work really hard to be able to use clapping, moving mouth parts to speak like this. I had just a lot of drawings and sculptures, and I would just show them to people, presuming that the raw concept would get through to them. And I had to understand raw concept does not get through. You must clothe it with words. Like, if you're giving somebody a present, you got to wrap that present in a little package, give it to them, they unwrap the package, and they see, here's the goodies inside. That's what words are. Words are like the package, the box that we put the concept inside of. So this is where you wrap or unwrap packages in your energy body structure of energy flowing. So when you get insight that comes from a higher dimensional, less dense realm, it is not in the form of words. This is really, really, really big. Because there's all sorts of people that are kind of fraudulent. They're doing some channeling and whatever. They're getting impulses from higher dimensional, less dense realms. It has to come through not only their human filter, because this is the anthropomorphic, eye of insight human filter, but then it also has to come through their words. And these are areas where you can then have wonderful levels of distortion, not merely personal interpretation. It's like if you're a musician, it's like, that's the note you're supposed to play. But let's say you play it like this. Like you're putting a lot of your own personal interpretation into that note. You're not just playing the note. So this is what happens. This is how we can understand it. Pure energy comes to different thought structures, comes through the apparatus, and then gets a color or a flavor. You get flavored water. You're not just having regular water anymore. So that's where that happens. Let's go up to the eye of insight, because everybody's always focused on this. My third eye, my third eye, my third eye is opening. This is part of a structure, just like your heart and lungs work together. Your crown and your, eye of insight, they work together. And I like to call this your library card of the cosmos. And it's very similar to when you are a little kid, or I don't know what age you got your library card at, but you get a library card, and that means that you now are allowed to go into a big building that's full of all the knowledge of your culture, and you can access any of it. And of course, not all of it is age appropriate, but you now have access to it. So when people start to raise their energy and they start to get to this level of activating their eye of insight, they all of a sudden are like, wow, I have access to all this information. They don't necessarily have the guidance or the wisdom to know what to read first. And like I said, age appropriate, like you're not going to give like some little first grader War and Peace by Leon Tolstoy. Like that is not appropriate, even in terms of vocabulary, possibly in terms of violence and sexual stuff. You got to give him like My Little Pony or something like that. So there is the, let me get the right color, crown chakra. And that is like the librarian. So I'm making now a vertical purple line. I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but that is the librarian in the great cosmic library. Just like there's the composer, that made all the music, and the conductor that tells you, hey, now it's time for you to play. Here's the beat, like do your thing. The librarian says, hey, this is what you need to be looking at. I hope you can see my face in the thumbnail. What happens is, so this is where my eye is looking out through here. There's a complementary whirling energy center that actually turns my head in different directions, turns your head in different directions. So if I were to draw that on this little picture over here, you're looking down a particular timeline. So this is how you see through time, through your insight. And also, you should never sell your insight. You should never be like, hey man, you pay me $5 and I'll read your future. That is totally not, first of all, that's not cosmic lovemaking. That is like cosmic prostitution. And you're not supposed to look at somebody else's future. You're supposed to look at your own future. Look down your own highway. This is where your car is going. You don't got to care about somebody else's car. I'm sorry. I get agitated about that because there's a lot of fraudulent activity going on with the way that people are using their insight. So this is a very special part of your anatomy that you're meant to treat with, you're meant to honor it. And you're not supposed to sell access to it. So yes, you're never supposed to, I don't mean to use the word never, but it is inappropriate to sell access to your eye of insight. You're supposed to use your library card. It's like a sacred duty to read the things that you're supposed to read and learn the right things in the right order, and to be guided by this great librarian that either says, hey, look, I'm putting this arrow over here. Hey, look in this direction, or hey, look in this direction. Because that is a great part of our personal growth, is learning things in the right order. So here's a very good, practical example. A lot of people, when they start to activate their energy, you've got energy flowing up from the physical all the way up through their body, and they start to get to these, higher dimensional energy centers here, and they say, oh, I'm seeing something, I'm reading something at the Great Cosmic Library. I'm Jesus Christ. I'm Jesus Christ. And they don't read any of the other pages of that book. They just read the book that says, I'm Jesus Christ. And they run around with this very limited understanding. The truth is, you are Jesus Christ. I'm Jesus Christ. My dog is Jesus Christ. The redwood trees are Jesus Christ. To understand you are Christ consciousness. That is literally what this aperture of your body is. It is Christ consciousness. And when you awaken that, when you send energy to that part of your energy center, you're becoming part of the larger organism known as Christ. Congratulations. That is a very wonderful thing. One must mitigate that understanding with the idea that all consciousness, all of these organisms are connecting to Christ. So once again, if this is the eye of insight, it is not only for Christians. It is not only for people of a particular religious or professed faith. It is not for only certain people. It's like you have eyeballs on your face. You can look at physical light. If you have a non-physical inner eye of consciousness, then you can look at and perceive non-physical light. So all of those, let me get a good color here. All of those things that I was just talking about, everything from green on up to violet, I call those the higher faculties, because they are like extrasensory perception. They are perception beyond the mere 5 senses of the physical. And big emphasis and big takeaway here, I'll go back to my face, is that all of the information that I share with you, I'm able to share because I see it through my own insight. So to make a distinction here, it's not like I read this stuff in a book that somebody else wrote, or, learned it from someone else, learned it from my guru or my teacher, and I pass it along to you. I have an inner telescope. It's an inner telescope, but also an inner microscope. And I can use this tendril of attention to learn whatever I wish to learn. And I've been in the cosmic school, the University of the Universe, for 17 years or 18 years since I came here as Aurora. And I'm sharing with you, these are the letters of the alphabet. This is how I learned, with the understanding that each one of you will also activate your inner eye. It's not a question of like getting something that you don't already have. You have the ruby slippers, darling. All that you need is gas to go in your gas tank of your car. So you have the car, you have the eyesight, you have the eye. It might just be not functional because it requires lots of gas to make it go. And this is big. Where does the gas come from? Gas comes from food that you eat, because this is solidified light. Let me drink some solidified light. Gas also comes from sun gazing. So lesson 13 of this class is actually all about sun gazing. So I'm not going to jump to that yet. Understand that that's what is necessary. If you can get 10 units of light from eating your, 2,000 calories roughly of regular food per day, right? You need like 1,000,000 units of light to be able to use your inner telescope. And it's like you got to have a giant light bulb that's really, really bright to be able to see what's going on up there. So yeah, you could either, like eat a lot of potatoes, try to get all that light out of potatoes, or you could do what I do and what I encourage everyone to do, which is tap directly into sunlight. And also, P.S., this is what we were made to do. This is what we were designed to do as part of our, original blueprint. I'm just moving my light closer because my sunlight is changing in my room. Our original blueprint, way back in the antediluvian sophisticated worldwide culture known as the mythological culture of Atlantis, we were made to eat pure sunlight. We were not made to eat mashed potatoes and other organisms and cows and donkeys and things like that. No, we were made to eat pure sunlight. So this is necessarily a return to those practices. And it's also in preparation for leaving the planet. So we as experts do not do star travel in a clank metal spaceship. We do it in a consciousness vehicle. Are you with me, everybody? And it is all done through, being fueled by love. So basically, the emphasis here is these are your natural faculties. They are your birthright. You don't need to have anything implanted. You don't need any kind of special injection or nanoparticles. You don't need to sniff a white powder. You don't need to have a magic elixir. You don't need to have a magic wand. You don't need to have an AI neural interface. This is big because I want everybody to know, like, none of the stuff that I do comes from AI or computers at all. Like, where's my thing? Like, I use a protractor, okay? Like, I use very simple tools, the type of stuff they had in ancient Greece. All of my whole, what I'm trying to portray here in my embodiment is the living truth that you don't need anything other than your birthday suit to reach the highest levels of, empowerment and self-cultivation that it is possible to reach, including star travel. Like, you don't build a big giant metal spaceship to fly places, including things that would be considered magical, like magical, miraculous levels of healing, miraculous levels of perception, miraculous levels of communication. All of this has to do with, hey, how do I talk to someone that's a beam of light from, 10 million years in the future? How do I talk to that person? The answer is you got to learn this language of color, line, shape, form, movement, texture, and tone. And it's a fun thing to learn. So this is, what I'm giving everybody the basics. And this is also learning about your own energetic anatomy. So you've got a physical body. That's easy. We can all agree, like here's my physical hair. Here's my physical ear. Like, here's my physical eyeball. That we all have that. Not everybody can agree to the other levels of being up from physicality, even though it's kind of funny. So if we are looking at science and objective materialism as like the arbiters of what is truth in this time and place, that they'll be like, well, we can touch the physical. We know that that's real. Look, I'm touching Aurora's physical, but how about emotions? But every single one of those scientists has felt emotions. They have felt anger, or they have felt affection. Like, everybody has felt those. So those are very real experience and mind, even though science in this time and place does not even formally recognize mind or consciousness. And all of that is because ask science this question: how much does mind weigh? How long, how many inches long is mind? Like we can't answer it, we can't measure it in that way. So science is totally like, I'm not going to touch that with the 10-foot clown pole. I'm not going to get into that. Same thing with emotions. How much does your anger weigh? We can't measure it, we can't weigh it. But I can say, how much does your earlobe weigh? That I can measure. Science is like, hooray, hooray, I'm ready. Like I can finally do something. So yeah, science and objective materialism is the descriptive form of thought structure that is only about this red layer of reality. Totally la la la, fingers in the ears, ignoring and denying the existence of all these other layers of reality that are you, and that are interactive with other people on that level of reality. So once again, you might not be physically touching someone else with your physical like fist, right? You're not touching on the physical, on the red level, but you might be touching on the emotional level. You know, if you send somebody a word packet that's filled with information, like, I'm not saying this to anyone in this class, but if you send them a word packet, I hate you and I want you to die. I'm trying to make a mean face here. Yeah, you're sending them, you're punching them in the face through the emotional level here. And I'm sure that every one of us has had that experience. Like you open an email, you open some comment on social media and you read it. Someone wrote something that's like punching you in the face. They didn't physically punch you. They affected your emotions. And this happens through the intellect. So this is ways of saying that on this non-physical level, we are interactive as consciousness beyond the physicality. And very big takeaway there too, and pointed emphasis, because I say all the time, you are not merely swimming around in your own private kiddie pool in your backyard of consciousness. That's what everybody thinks. Like, la, 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 I can think whatever thoughts I want. I can think whatever unkind thoughts or violent thoughts. Like, no, actually you cannot. You are actually connected to everyone else in terms of consciousness and in terms of music, genetic music, that we are all affecting one another. I'm being affected by you and I am affecting you. And that also comes down to the interdimensional ethics that allow me to be here as a galactic presence in this body. Because I'm playing Flying Rainbow Lasagna music with this body. And some of the evil beings on this planet are like, shut up, we hate your music. And I'm like, what? I can't hear you. I'm playing lasagna music and I'm allowed to do it. And that's the way that you understand this. And it's not like I'm playing my music against them. I didn't come here to say, I'm going to play this music against you. I came here to play my music and express my truth in this world. And that is what we are all allowed to do. So ethically, you're allowed to have your own mind, your own, sense of individuality. You're allowed to think your own thoughts, understanding that what you play should harmonically integrate with the rest of the musicians. And you got to be respectful. You can't just barge into somebody else's mind. These are some of the rules of, how to be like a loving interdimensional communicator as opposed to a mind rapist. Oh no, they're like making the streets so clean today. There's going to be no dust on the street. Oh, let me just drink some water. Okay. Here's a question from Hans. Thank you. Hans is a wonderful participant student in this class for many years. Thank you for your continued participation and support. Hans is also in Sweden, so I'm sending you, like this time of year, we got sunlight. I'm sending you sunlight so that you got what you need. Question says, are the levels higher than the physical what science calls dark matter? So in order to answer that question, like I've had to educate myself about dark matter because I did not come here with a scientific background, and I've been using and trying to figure out the common language so that I can speak to people in this time and place who might have a scientific mindset. So I have a challenge talking about dark matter because I understand what science is talking about and defining, but I don't think that it actually exists. I think that what's going on is that science has a particular model of the cosmos or model of the universe and has to have certain puzzle pieces that fit together, but it is a flawed model. So dark matter has been created as like a fictional puzzle piece, like we must have dark matter to be able to do this. So I think that it's like an imaginary number. It's like a placeholder for a concept that should exist, but they need to recalibrate. They need to retune the entire guitar of science in order to be able to integrate better with the thought structures of higher dimensional reality. So that's like, so I came here as Aurora. It's why I didn't become a scientist. Aurora, why did you not become a scientist and write white papers and, be in a university? And my answer is because I understood that the concepts that I'm presenting there would be resistance. And in order to write white papers, you have to have peer review and acceptance by, the other scientists. And I recognized that it would really be an uphill battle to be able to present this information because there are basic flaws in basic presumptions in the cosmology of how science looks at the world. So I am coming at this from an artist because no one has to peer review my paintings and I can express myself accurately. And then hopefully scientists who are interested in receiving information from non-science sources can receive this information. So yeah, all of my paintings that I do, they're all accurate. Like I always make them like pretty. They're always decorative. They're always nice looking. Anybody would want to have them in their home, but they're not merely decorative objects. So all of these contain information. And I have presented my work at math art conferences where there are scientists and academics and people that are more objective materialist, and I'm sharing these ideas with them. So, and I had to find a common ground linguistically to be able to share these ideas. But there are a lot of there are a lot of objective materialists who cannot appreciate the information about the non-physical aspects of the world. That's why I set up this class the way I did. You know, you might think like, oh, you got to talk to everybody who's in the university and all the bearded university professors, and they're the guys that you got to, you know, pollinate with this information. No, because a lot of them are like, flying rainbow lasagna, blah, ha, ha, I ain't listening to you because you're not written in a white paper in a book. So I actually present this information to everyone, including lay people. I don't know if that is condescending or whatever, but not highly trained, you know, scientists or mathematicians. And it's why I make this information accessible to a person who doesn't have any kind of a background on that level, because it doesn't matter. This is big emphasis also. It literally does not matter how much intellectual, you know, pre-programming you have. That's like saying, let's say you went to a conservatory and you have memorized like all of the songs. You know all the famous operas, you know all the famous symphonies. That does not actually help you in the realm of pure jazz abstraction and innovation. That just because you memorized a lot of patterns doesn't necessarily give you the capacity to innovate and learn in a new setting. We're in a new setting in terms of where we are in the time field. We are transforming from this shape into this shape. No one's ever done this before. We are creating new territory, literally. We are creating a new dimension as we do this collectively with our interactive consciousnesses. So there's no one who's an expert. And here's a good little anecdote I can give to you. I went to this one math art conference that's put on by Bridges, which is a wonderful organization. And there they did a very large group build of a sculpture that's made out of Zoom. I don't have anything easily available to me, but these are like kind of like high-class tinker toys where you have a little hub and you have different sticks that stick in at different angles. And there was a very large computer design that we were all following. No one was an expert. This shape had never been created before out of these materials. It was designed, you know, by, a computer system. And then we were following the design. So there were facilitators that told us like, hey, make 12 of these red stars, make, 5 of these blue stars, make sure that you make everything correctly. But there was no expert. So even though there were some people there who were literal Nobel laureates and PhDs, there were little kids, like 10-year-olds. Some people had brought their family, so they had, young people there. 10-year-olds were telling the Nobel laureates, well, you got to make a star. Make a star. He showed them how to do it, and then make 12 of them. So that's the level of innovation that we are in terms of reality creation. It doesn't matter if you're a university scientist. It doesn't matter if you have, a PhD or long list of accomplishments academically. Everyone in this class is equal to a PhD scientist. We're in a time of complete innovation. So I don't want anyone here to feel like, put your shoulders down, oh, I'm not good enough. You're good enough. You are good enough. It's about using your consciousness. So it's also like if you're a musician. I don't want anybody here to be like, I'm not a good enough musician. I can't jam with the greats. That's not how the greats feel about you. And the greats are like galactic level beings. The greats are not condescending to you. They're not saying like, oh, those humans, they can't even play a regular chord. They don't know what they're doing. No, they're not like that at all. The greats are really like, hey, I'm interested in jamming with all the other good virtuosos. And we're talking about being a virtuoso of the heart. That a big part of this has to do with having heart energy, love energy. And I'm not talking about romantic partnership. This is not about everybody having an orgy and kissing and hugging and penile sex with one another. This is about being able to make love with the cosmos and with the redwood tree and being an attentive partner and being a good musician that listens to the other musicians and plays when you're meant to play and rests when you're meant to rest. So I'm sorry, Hans, that I could not be more effective in like answering your question about dark matter. Maybe science would call everything that's not in the red layer of the sculpture dark matter because it's what is not perceptible. So until science builds like the right type of camera that can take a picture of the time field, then I don't think science is even going to be ready to have a conversation with me about any of this stuff. Let me go through a couple of other pictures that I have prepared. Because, okay, so I went through this one. These are chakras or energy centers of the body, and you can see how they each have a convergence point. So there's like the big part of the vortex, and it goes down to a little skinny convergence point. All of these forms that you're looking at are made out of nothing more than time. So that's another big emphasis. What you're looking at is your time body. So, hey, look, we've all got a physical body. My physical body right now is sitting in a chair, sitting in a room. I'm in time. So I am surrounded by all of these possibilities and probabilities. And that's what you're looking at surrounding this figure over here. So I've got some other portrayals. You can also see, so there's a couple of commonalities between these two. Let me move my thing. Between these two images. Can I move this so that you can see them both at the same time? I can't move it properly. There we go. One is the idea that some of the energy centers are perpendicular to other energy centers. So if we look at this drawing over here, some of the energy centers are oriented what I would describe as horizontally, like this. And here you can see all of these guys oriented horizontally. And in the painting on the left over here, I did a simplification where I made them all converge in the same center of the body. So that's not as accurate as this more recent work over here. I'm always achieving more accuracy, where it shows that the convergence points actually align up and down the spine. So mostly when you look at, draw a picture of someone showing the chakras, they show you where I'm putting these white dots. These are like the focal point of the chakras, but that's not all that they are. Your chakras or energy field extends far beyond just where the focal points are. So that's why I wanted to show you this guy over here, this one over here. You can see your red bubble of energy, your red energy field. It's enormous. The physical energy field of your body does not end at your epidermis. It's not like it only goes out this far to the edge of your skin. It goes out even further. Like if you stretch your arms completely out all around your whole entire body, and even further, like your energy field my energy field could be this whole entire house. It could be my whole entire, parcel of land where my house is. It could be your whole entire city. You can expand it that big. It is a physical energy presence. So if you think about any kind of thing, if you're standing in an elevator next to someone, that you're in each other's energy field. If you're in Times Square, everybody's stuck in a big crowd, you're in somebody's energy field. You are making music, sending out energy with your vibrating strings of your DNA, and you're getting affected by other people who are also sending out their music that might sound like this. And you're affecting one another. So this has everything to do with, ethics, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. And I will just reaffirm, you're allowed to be yourself. You're allowed to be your true self, knowing that what you're sending out is affecting other people and they're affecting you too. And ostensibly, you try to send out things that are helpful and comfortable or nourishing or, is otherwise inspiring to people. So here's another example of portrayal of the chakras. And I'm getting to one of the most complex ones. I know this one might be a little bit hard to even see what's going on, but it's one of the most accurate ones, the most recent one that I did. And what I also have in this drawing is, instead of what I would call a half chakra, so half chakra, I'll draw it over here, would be like, we've got one vortex up here and then one vortex down here. But that's only half of it, because we also have one that is at 90-degree angles that goes like that and like that. And that's what I define as a full chakra or energy center. And you can see each one of these, like here's one, here's one, here's one, and here's one. So this is like the full description with no information left out of the way that all of these energy centers are arranged upon your body. And it is the whirling and twirling at complementary angles that keeps you stabilized as you move through time. So it is a type of gyroscopic stabilization. Here comes Boss Boss. Come on over. Come on over. Wait. Show my face. Go to my face. Come on up, girl. Come on up. Come on up. Here. Come here. Come on up. You can do it. You can do it. Up. I got this whole setup. There you go, guys. There you go. Come on. We knew that boss would find her way on in. She's going to lick my cherry lip gloss. Oh, I love you. Good girl. For anybody who's new to the class, this is Cheeky. She is the boss. She's the supervisor. Okay, we got to get back to work, boss. Oh, thank you so much. We got to get back to work. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Great. Okay, let me make sure. Oh, wonderful. Okay, good. Now she will settle in for the duration. That's fantastic. Aw, thank you. And so SJ says about this to you, Cheeky, you always bring a smile to her face. That is so beautiful to hear. And I'm telling you, Cheeky is like so full of love. She goes around sprinkling magical glittering fairy dust to everybody every day. Like we gotta spread it around town because she's got so much love inside. So she's really super fantastic. And one more thing, I want to go back to this painting over here because it's also important to understand that your chakras are not in a contextless vacuum, that you and all of your chakras and your energy centers and your time body is intimately connected to and interactive with the chakras and time body, many other living organisms. So in this painting over here, what you can see is several different figures, and I'm going to highlight them for you. Like there's one, oh, that didn't work. Hold on a second. This, now it should work. Sorry, guys. Let's see if I can make this work properly. Here. Here's one figure over here. Here's one over here. Here's one over here, here, here. So I just drew a couple in this one. I have more extensive paintings that show many of them. But the whole point is all of these guys fit together. So if I were to draw, like this is the vortex. Let me choose a different color so you can see it better. I know I'm squinting and scrolling too on this. Well, I don't know if you can even see that, but there's one that's over there. There's one that's over there. Here's the way that they converge together, right? And that top vortex down there converges with this point down here, all right? And all of that means that the events of your life flow into and affect the events of other people's lives. This is, again, cosmic ethics, that the flow of energy, I'll just go back to my face, the flow of energy around this shape, which is what I will get into in level 2, this is not a contextless shape. So this shape is the shape of all of your chakras or energy centers that are made of bundles of timelines that are clusters of possibilities and probabilities. And, you know, this is recap, and I'll do 5 more minutes here, and then I'll go into level 2, into the idea of the time field, what this, how we navigate, how we flow around this shape. And I'm trying to say, like, we flow in a figure 8 around this shape, but it's not just around the shape, because energy comes from, there's another shape up here that comes down into here. And what comes out through the bottom here can also go into someone else. So your life, this individuated life that you're living, affects other people's lives. Just like if you were in a relay race, or if you were a trapeze artist, you know, you're like waiting there, you're waiting for the guy to run on over and hand you the baton so that you can go on your aspect of the relay race. Or if you are a trapeze artist, you are swinging over here, and this guy's going to swing over here, and you're going to clasp hands in order to be able to do what you need to do. So this has, again, a great deal to do with coordinating together, and just like if you are musicians. Like the drummer has to coordinate with the piano, has to coordinate with the singer. Like you all got to mesh together. And this is also not really about meshing with other people. It's all you. It's all you. It is about meshing with aspects of your journey where you might be living many different lives concurrently. So, and not to get too much into this, but you do not live your lives serially. You do not live them in a linear sense. Like first I finished this life, then I went and lived this life, then I went and lived this life. It's not like that. You live in all your lives together, and they're all interactive at the same time. So one example is like, let's say we're all on this timeline, we're in this body, we're having a conversation here on a video conference with you know, technology. But we also have concurrent timelines or layers of time, like we're on this timeline, we're also on this layer of time, where we might be in ancient Greece, you know, in a amphitheater, listening to you know, a teacher tell us about things, or we might be sitting around a campfire in like a Paleolithic time, very non-technological time, but still sharing ideas, you know, talking about the stars, talking about cosmology, and we're having all these conversations at the same time, like 3 layers of tapestry that one needle and thread is sewing through, and that needle and thread is the event or the concept of learning about stuff. So this is just one example of that. We are concurrently experiencing this time along with other times. So all of this information that I'm giving you is meant to be empowering for you to be able to navigate the time field more effectively. So in level 2, what I'm going to talk about and reiterate, because I know that some people are just getting going on the semester, the patterns of energy as they flow around this shape, and also building the dimensions, because this is the end result of a tiny dimensional point that essentially blossoms into a multidimensional shape, which is this. And then all of this is backstory for how do you then take the next step of blossoming from this shape into this next highest dimensional, multidimensional form. So that's what that's going to be. So let me wrap up level 1. Everyone who's in the class is totally welcome and encouraged to still stay on board for level 2, but I bifurcate it so that my upload times are not too long. And then I'll go on to level 2. Thank you so much.